Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is our Awakening Together weekly gathering. Each and every week we have a different minister who speaks. If you'd like to attend our services live, please visit our website awakening-together.org. Click on Online Sanctuary on the main menu. Then, How to Enter the Sanctuary. Our services are held Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary.
Thank you, Sana, and welcome everyone to this beautiful Sunday, August the 15th. Where does time fly by? All right, as we get started here, let me share a core value here. In our purpose, we are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within the appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. And the core value that I've chosen today out of the 5 that we have is core value number 3. We accept one true self, which is one presence or being, non-dual, without beginning or end, and absolutely changeless. We live this value by practicing letting go of the belief in the individual self as who we are. So, love that song. Yes. So join me as we bow in prayer and as we prepare to find out what Spirit shares with us today. Heavenly Father, how great thou art. How great thou art. And we are that Christ that you have sent for reasons that only you know, that we may awaken to the truth of who we truly are by releasing the belief in our individual existence. So help us as we share today, as we teach what each of us should learn, and help us to open our minds and hearts. And again, reflect on how great thou art. Amen. Okay. We have a reading, and Reverend Deloris is going to be our reader. Before we begin there, I want to share my screen once more. We're going to talk about the code. And so I want to share my screen. Can you see my screen, Sana? Okay. All right. So if you go to audios, Regina Dawn Akers, oldies and classics, and let's see here. We're going to talk about the code. Now, if you notice here, there's a lot of recordings here available. But we're going to focus on the code. Regina actually gave the code, the original talk, in 2 parts. So that's 2 hours of listening. We're going to read the code in written message, and she also taught the code again in 2014. So we're just going to do a short version of the code today. And so Reverend Deloris, who has agreed to be our reader today, I'm going to release the mic, and it's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, George and Susan and everyone for reaching out and asking me to read today. Usually I'm kind of not on because my mom also has a church. And so sometimes I go to her service and a little bit feel guilty. And I think she gets mad at me when I don't go. So anyway, so I'm reading today from NTI. NTI Ephesians chapter 1, the Holy Spirit's interpretation of Ephesians. Greetings. I have come to teach you that which you have become willing to learn. Blessings upon you in your learning, for you are learning who and what you are. You were chosen through your creation to be the Son of God. This you may call predestiny, because it seems to come to you through discovery on a spiritual path. But you are discovering nothing that hasn't always been true. You are only finding the truth of you. That which you discover is true of everyone, and so it is the truth of the world. It is the one truth that binds all things and makes them one. It is the one truth that rules through law and makes anything that appears not to be of this law to also be of the law. Welcome into your heart the Holy Spirit, for he is the voice within you that knows your truth and knows the law by which you live. Through him there is freedom in the law. Through him the law is used for truth. I have come to teach you the law by which you live, that you may use the law for your benefit. The law is the law of love. Though it may seem to be used outside of love, it cannot be. That is the veil of illusion. The law of love is used for love and by love without exception, and so the law gives as it is asked. But the law of love may be used in ignorance, without the knowledge of love, so that what is given may be misunderstood, because it is not remembered that the law gives as it has asked. The law of love is not separate from you, and it does not rule over you. The law of love is you, and it works through you, so that you may never be separate from the love that you are. Chapter 2. Your mind is of God. This we already established. Being of God, it is the same as God. This is the law of which we speak. The law of God is the law of mind. This can also be called the law of thought. And being the law of freedom, it is the law of love. It is the law through which you live. Therefore, remember that this law is who you are, so that this law works through you, even as you believe you are who you are not. This law is your truth, completely inseparable from you. You must learn this law and love it in order to realize and accept the truth of who you are. The Christ shall be the symbol for the law, for through the Christ, the ones that seem many are one. Through this law, the ones that seem many are one. And in fact, they have always been one, as they are bound as one through the law. It is true that the Christ is the chief cornerstone on which the foundation and the building are built. This is why all is one. It is because it is through no other process that which is built can be built. Call it an agreement, but it is not an agreement. It is the law of the nature of truth. But from your perspective, it seems like an agreement that is bound through the law of love. This is the agreement which is also law. All that you are through creation. All that you be through creation also. In this way, God is alive and serves as your creative force through your brothers who serve you as you serve them. This is not a conscious agreement, so it can seem to bring unhappiness and conflict. But all that is at the surface, is illusion. In truth, you ask of your brother through your mind, and your brother answers you exactly as you have asked. That's hard to accept. Okay, this is the law of creation, which is used but is not understood. I have come to teach you what you do, that you may choose to do what you do for the love and benefit of all. This is a step toward acknowledging your truth. Welcome the willingness to honestly practice this step in consciousness with me. Ephesians chapter 3. Through Christ, all are bound together and there is no separateness. This is the law of love. This is what you are. You are inseparable from it. When you think you are thinking alone, you are not. Your thoughts, which are heard by your brothers, are answered through them. This is the law of love. This is why all things are love. Only love exists. Every experience that is given you is unequivocally the gift of love, given in answer to your request for love. You perceive yourself as a person, but you are not what you perceive yourself to be. You believe your thoughts are private and have no effect beyond the brain you see as yours. All of this is illusion and a misunderstanding of what you are. You are being made in God's image through the process of creation that is God. In this way, you are the same as He. The process that you are is what you are. It is your truth. It is how you live and exist. What you do through your mind is made and created, not alone, but in conjunction through oneness with your brothers. And thank you for allowing me to read.
And thank you, Deloris. We're going to go through the reading of the code, but Regina pointed out that really NTI Ephesians is the explanation for the code. So I love this. Greetings, I come to teach you that which you have become willing to learn. Now, Spirit guided me to this topic today, and I have been listening over the past month or so, off and on, to the code. And George really has difficulty understanding this message. If you want to know what state I'm in, it's the state of confusion. Even though I travel around physically a lot, I really live in a state of confusion much of the time. So, and this is one of the readings. This teaching of the code is one that, even though I've listened to it and I've read it and listened to it again, it still is something that I feel drawn to, and I would suspect that I'm not alone. So, as I said, we're only going to share a portion of this because Regina basically spent 3 hours talking about this, and we've only got a few minutes here. So, but the code basically is relative truth versus absolute truth. As long as we are in this body, we are in the realm of relative truth. So, let's see. So I'm going to take a look at the text of the reading here. And the question that Regina asked what would you share with us today to help us reach greater clarity on the code mentioned in yesterday's message? Now, the code came to Regina. Spirit put her and Laurent. Laurent, if most of you are probably familiar with the story of Regina and Laurent, but Laurent is a Frenchman that brought Regina and Laurent together for the purpose of healing their relationships, healing, and Regina points out that this message helped her overcome anger. She and Laurent had a much different background and personality. And anytime you're joined with someone that is so different, it's an opportunity to bring up judgment and anger. So Regina was given this message of the code just 3 weeks into the relationship, which at that point was not going well. So Spirit told her the code is ideas, just as all things within illusion are ideas. The code can be seen as specific manifestations in form and can be felt as feelings or can be heard as thoughts. The best way to look at the code is as the potential driver of experience. I say the potential driver of experience because the code will only drive your experience if you fully believe the code. Even if you let go of your belief in the code partially, it no longer has full influence over you. The code can only drive your experience to the degree that you believe in the code. Now, Regina likened this to the movie The Matrix. And I think most of you have probably seen The Matrix, but it is a movie, a science fiction movie about artificial intelligence becoming sentient, becoming super intelligent, and taking over the world. And the people of the world have this sense of being an individual, but the reality is the human body's sole purpose in this world is to provide energy for the intelligence that has taken control over mankind. And so people are basically in a coma. They have a set of rules, a programming, which makes them believe that their existence, this dream existence, is their real self. So, the code is really programming. And we've studied this before. As humans, we are programmed by the world around us. When we're born, we receive almost all of the programming that we're going to live our lives with by the age of about 7. And that programming comes through our immediate environment, our parents, our relatives, the culture we're raised in, and the experiences we have. And this programming is mostly negative programming. It's a lot of thou shalt not, or you're not this, or you're not that. So we live our lives with this programming. And so the code as related to in the reading, is really program. It's a program. So the code is just ideas, just as all things within the illusion are ideas. So we really live in an illusory world that we believe is real. So even if you let go of your belief in the code partially, it no longer has full influence over you. So the code also includes spirit. So, our whole purpose of looking at this from a spiritual standpoint is how do we find our way out of suffering? As long as we accept and believe the code, our mind is closed. So how do we open our mind? There's wrong-minded code and there's right-minded code. So the code comes from all of us. All of us as we perceive ourselves right now. The code that most directly influences you is the experience as an individual, is the code that comes most directly from you. But all code influences each other so that no separation in code can be determined. It's really important to accept that there is no separation, and this is always true and always reflected within the code. So what we're doing is we're learning to master relative truth. The code makes the illusion. As I said, we're programmed early in childhood, and our view on life is largely presented from that early program. Now, it's interesting because two children from the same family can have on the outside two different personalities and two different ways to see the world. So that is there's something there that it's how we interpret that code that is the face that we present to the world. So as long as we experience any degree of illusion, we experience the code. And you always experience the totality of the code, although the code can be experienced differently. The code is a layered code. So, and a good way of thinking of that is vibrational layers. So we're looking, people who have a low vibrational sense of seeing the world seem to suffer more. And so if we add to the phenomena of an individual scripted interpretation, the code seems to have a myriad of different angles, but it's all just one code. So how can we constantly seek a higher level of vibration? So that's part of what the code is talking about. Your only responsibility, as long as you see a body in the world and perceive yourself to be a body, is raising your vibrational levels and releasing the wrong-minded code and looking at the right-minded code. Now, how do we do that? We do that by being present. By being present in now. The now is where everything happens. The mind the egoic mind wants to take us into the past. They want to project into the future. The egoic mind does not want to be in this experience of now. But as we look at ourselves and we judge our thoughts and our feelings and our actions, we can't really change that so much. I mean, when it happens instantaneously. It happens instantaneously. But what we can do is watch what's happening, and we can hold that desire. We've studied true desires, our aspirations, our spiritual aspirations, and Regina shared that, she shared 4 of them here. The desire to be truly helpful, the desire to know truth, the desire to be only love, the desire to be perfectly happy. There's many more, but most of us have studied and thought about what our spiritual aspirations really are. The desire to be of service. So these are true desires, and our programming seems to always point us to the lowest common denominator. It is a matter of judgment. We're constantly, as we project out in the world and we see the world in judgment, we're really just projecting out the code within us, that programming within us that we all have. So, but if we have a instance of anger, okay, for me, driving down the road, I think this is probably universal, driving down the road and having an interaction with another vehicle, another driver, can bring up some anger, some judgment. I remember the first time, I was raised out in the country, and there wasn't a lot of traffic out there. And as I would drive into the city, we had relatives in St. Louis. And as I got closer and closer to the city, of course, the traffic got heavier and heavier, and I wasn't used to that. And it really occurred to me, a good way to think of all of these other people on the road is as kind of like zombies. They were just doing their thing mindlessly, and if they were in the left-hand lane, driving below the speed limit or even at the speed limit, when I was younger, I used to speed a lot. But that thought occurred to me. There's no reason for me to get angry at these people because they're just unconscious. They're just doing their thing. And so it was a different way for me to look at it and kind of be in the moment, and just when I felt that anger at somebody for their driving habits, then I could look at it and say, hey, they're just being who they are, and there's no reason to be angry about it. Another instance, I used to do a lot of mechanical things, and as I'd be working on a car, the thoughts would come to me, boy, the engineer that designed this was an idiot. He didn't design it with the thought in mind that to make it easy to work on. And I used to get so mad as I was doing this. And then I realized my anger had absolutely no purpose whatsoever. That judgment, it was what it was. if the wrench slipped and I busted my knuckle, it was what it was. Getting mad at it didn't help a bit, not one bit. And so that's the way we can look at the code. We can have these thoughts of judgment, of anger, of sadness, and we can just look at them. Just realize that that's how we feel. That's the thoughts that come into our mind at this moment. And it just is what it is. But we can hold that desire to see it differently. And in doing so, we're changing our contribution to the overall code. You know, it's, in a sense, it seems that we have an individual code, but really all code is from the collective. You know, you've heard spiritual teachers say, man, if we could just have X number of people meditating with kind thoughts in the world, we can change, you know, the whole world. So that's sort of the idea around the code. As we hold that desire to be truly helpful, that desire to know truth, to be only love, the desire to be happy, we're changing the code. The code is being rewritten from a collective standpoint. It's you know, artificial intelligence, they have artificial intelligence now that can learn. You know, they have an experience and they learn from it, and they program a directive that helps them deal with whatever that problem is or whatever that they've come across. And of course, there again, there's fear that artificial intelligence is going to become so intelligent that it does just what it did in the Matrix. So, and at some point, just take over us. So let's see. If the code as it is received is not aligned with true desire, it is time to recognize yourself as the creator and edit the code. So that's what I've been talking about. Editing the code is making a change so that the code as it was received is not the idea accepted into the mind as true. In other words, you do not feel the unaligned idea back into you do not feed it back into the total code of the world. Or said another way, the idea is not shared into the mind of the sonship. So to not reshare an idea, you must recognize your power. You know, I mean, the feeling of being a victim, I think, is universal in the world. We all, each one of us, have in our minds a reason that we're a victim. It may be a victim of an outside force, or it may be a victim internal. You know, unless we're perfectly well and happy and adjusted, then we can, in a sense, look at ourselves as a victim. Oh, why, poor me? Why is this happening? You know, I could be a victim. This year, I've had 2 major surgeries. You know, I've had a reduction in my energy level. It's like, I can easily look at that and say, well, gee, I'm a victim. I'm a victim of the physical body. I'm a victim of, as I'm getting older, things happen. You know, I'm not as young and vigorous as I used to be. And so poor me, that I wish this weren't happening. But the fact that it is happening is exactly what I need to experience. It's for my own good. It's an individualized programming for awakening for George Maddox. Each one of us has that individualized written script that is guiding us step by step to the realization that we're truly awake already, that we can give up this illusory programming that we all have. So we go from form-based purposes to the true desire purposes. So, as we see something come in, and we have sadness or anger, we can say, how does this relate to my desire to be truly happy? Or how does this relate to my desire to know truth? So accepting responsibility for the code and accepting or allowing your reaction to it is different than re-accepting the code into the mind. Now, as I said, this message has really confused me as I've listened to it and I've read it. It's like, yeah, I hear the words, but how does it really make sense to me? And in one way, it really can't make sense to George. George is never going to get it. But George is not really George. George is an illusion. And there is that essence within me, that spirit within me that is slowly and gently guiding me, and sometimes not so gently. Sometimes it smacks me, but it guides me gently toward knowing that all is well. And I ran across a video on a near-death experience. Eben Alexander is a physician, a neurological physician that had a near-death experience. He had a severe meningitis. He was in a coma for 7 days, and he went into that realm beyond the mind. And he knows that it was beyond the mind because his mind basically had shut down. He had less than a 1% chance of survival, according to the doctors. And even if he lived, he had a severe infection, a spinal infection, that even if he lived, he should have been in a vegetative state, and even then not lived that long. But anyway, he went into that realm, that angelic realm of spirit. And he said, I have no doubt because, I've studied the brain as a doctor all of my life, and my brain was not functioning. So it wasn't a illusion of the brain that I was experiencing, because my brain had turned off. But I still had conscious awareness. He knew nothing of the physical world in that week that he was in a coma. But then he woke up, and he has fully recovered. It took some time, but he had a full recovery to remember everything that he knew before this severe brain infection. So this is, this is something that I think we're all looking for. We're looking for the awareness of what is really the truth of God, the truth of spirit, and the truth of who we are. So whenever you pause to look at the code you are changing the code by shifting to another vibrational level. And this is a key point. We think, even though we experience a personal change in our understanding, Regina said that through using the code, she gave up anger completely, not just for Laurent, but for everything in the world. And, it doesn't feel good to have negative emotions. And so if they become so painful, if you have intense anger, intense rage, intense sadness, it doesn't feel good. And we have that experience, we have that desire not to have that experience. So, this actually helps motivate us to see things differently. When life is good, we're floating along. We don't have a whole lot of desire to change. We've all had, hopefully, some periods in our life when life just flows. Everything is wonderful. And, it's sort of like we're in the kind of a blissful state as much as we can understand. Those are the kind of situations where we're not really motivated to change. But when we start having some undesirable experiences, it's like, how can this be different? So experience is different than reality. And trying to reconcile the two through the intellect is an impossibility. It's impossible for George to understand truth. But George is just an illusion. And as it's each one of us, as we manifest in the world, we're having an experience, just like Neo in the Matrix. He thought that he had that sense of reality. That was who he was. But it was only after he was released physically, his physical body was released, that he had an understanding of what had happened to him and where he truly had been and where everyone else was. He had been in a world that was a programmed world. So I see we're getting close here. So I need to wrap this up. So, relative truth versus absolute truth. That's what each one of us are striving for. And so I'd ask you to go also and look and read NTI Ephesians, because it really is a different way of saying just what we've been talking about. So I go back to this. Greetings, I have come to teach you that which you have become willing to learn. So it's our desire to see things differently that is a driver guiding us toward our awakening. So kind of reminds me of the start of the Way of Mastery. You were chosen through your creation to be the Son of God. This you may call predestiny, because it seems to come through you through discovery on a spiritual path. So we are on this spiritual path of awakening together. And we're having that discovery that this program that we believe to be us, this code that we have been guiding our lives by, is a false code. It's an illusory code. It's a wrong-minded code. And so it is through desire to see things differently, that is the driving force for awakening. That which you discover is true of everyone, and so it is the truth of the world. You are only finding the truth of yourself. It is one truth that binds all things and makes them one. It is the one truth that rules through law and makes anything that appears not to be of this law also to be the law. So, welcome into your heart the Holy Spirit, for he is the voice within you that knows your truth and knows the law by which you live. Through him, there is freedom in the law. Through him, the law is used for truth. So that's the right-minded truth, the right-minded code. And I hope you've learned something today. As I've reviewed this, it seems to be some more clear to me than it was before. And we're all in this together. So I think I'm going to stop right there. Peace and blessings to each one of you. Yes, thank you. And let me, Sana has posted the donation link if anybody would like to donate to Awakening Together. We rely upon your donations to make all of these things that are free in our program available. And so let's see, we've got about 2 minutes. Is there anybody that wants to share
Sally,
anything?
go ahead.
Thank you very much for that very helpful homily. That was very good. So the last sentence you gave is a wrong-minded code that's controlling us. I think that speaks volumes to me. So as we switch to more right-minded thoughts, hopefully we will switch to more right-minded code. So thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you, Sally. Anybody else? Looks like we've just got a minute left here. So Deloris, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, George, this morning for your for choosing this topic and for your message. And I fell asleep on the Matrix last night. I do more streaming shows. It was on Pluto, and they had the first one on, which I enjoy. I never understood 12 Monkeys, so that'll be interesting if I go ahead and watch that. But and I didn't understand a little bit of the background of the Matrix, although I know I was always attracted to it. But what came to my mind when you were talking was the one belief that I think that I have is the belief in the God awareness, in the absolute awareness. If there's anything that I could believe in, it is that, and I'm thinking about my relative personality, that conditioning, how I was raised, and just all of the patterns, which are all, of course, very short-minded. And, you spoke about being a victim and how we all can feel like we're a victim. And when I go into that mindset, which I can, and being an African American woman in society, I can, I think I could find a justification, but then I can't find any justification. I feel like I have to own everything. I have to own it all. I mean, I have to own my responses. I can't blame any type of responses on anyone else. So I figured, I came into this existence to be that. That's, like chosen to come here to be that, to experience whatever that is to experience. But this is a really good topic, and I'm going to go back and try to read some more about it because, when I'm in the Deloris, there's lack, there's limitation, there's victimhood. But when I shift into God, that God awareness, it's like there's no lack. There's there's nothing really. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Deloris, and thank you for being our reader today. We're at the end of our service here, and so you're welcome to stick around for our fellowship, which Audrey is going to be our leader today. So thank you.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.